just want to send a big, happy Veterans Day to all the veterans, the people that have served this country to give us all the amazing freedoms that we have. We love you and thank you for everything that you've done.
This is our Salute to Service Week on First Take, and our first stop is all the way over on the West Coast at Naval Base San Diego, where we had the pleasure of visiting 3 years ago. We had a wonderful time. We salute the thousands of brave servicemen and women of the base and all those who are an integral part of the United States Navy. We thank you. We salute you. Let's get to the debate, y'all. The Cowboys, under Garrett Gilbert, almost handed the Steelers, Stephen A., their first loss of the season. I wanted to tweet you, Stephen A. I controlled myself, and it's good I didn't. Because the Men of Steel hang on for the ugly win and are now 8-0. Former Cowboy Keyshawn Johnson with us now. No, Stephen A. still wins. Whatever. Hey, Keith, thanks for being with us. Stephen A., were you more impressed by the Cowboys in all seriousness or disappointed in your Steelers?
I was disappointed in my Steelers because my expectations, obviously, they're my favorite team. We all know that. And when I think about the Steelers, I think about Super Bowl contention. And the way that I see them playing, I think that they'll have obviously a really good regular season, and then they'll get bounced out in the first round of the playoffs if they continue to play the way that they've playing. Now, I understand that you've got this guy, I think what is his name, Tyson Aluala, I believe that's his name. He's the nose tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers that's been out the last 2 games. I don't know if anybody's paid attention, but they've given up 265 yards rushing to the Baltimore Ravens, and then they follow up by giving up 144 yards rushing to the Dallas Cowboys. So your run defense is a huge question mark. That's number one. Number two, where's your running game on the offensive side of the ball? I told y'all, listen, I'm a fan of James Conner, the person. I'm a fan because of the story and the obstacles that he's overcome and the things that he's battled in his life, which are well documented. And I have a profound respect, and I wish him nothing but the best. But let's be very clear. He is no Le'Veon Bell, at least the Le'Veon Bell that was in the Pittsburgh Steelers uniform last night, or yesterday afternoon. He averaged 2.4 yards a carry. That's not going to get it done. So your running game with him and Snell and these boys, it just ain't cutting the mustard. The Steelers don't have any running game worth its salt. They couldn't convert on a 3rd and 1. They couldn't convert on a 4th and 1 in the first half. And then we get to the coaching, because as much as I love my brother Mike Tomlin, and we all know that I do, how the hell are you not going to kick the field goal and instead go to the running game on a 4th and 1, knowing that your team can't seem to run block, your offensive line can't seem to run block, and then you're going to sit up there and go on it for a 4th and 1 after they let you down not once but twice in the first half. You go for it again, and who gets stopped? James Conner, once again, for a 4-yard loss. You could have went up 8. Dallas would have had to score a touchdown, didn't get a 2-point conversion, but that didn't happen because they ended up only down 5, and they were driving down for a winning score before Minka Fitzpatrick once again saved the day. He intercepted the ball in the end zone initially, but then he blocked the pass at the end of the game to preserve it. So I'm looking at questionable run blocking on the offensive line. I'm looking at a questionable running game that has something to do with it, but I'm still not sold on these running backs. I'm looking at their run defense, which is a huge question mark. I'm looking at Mike Tomlin having faith in a running game that's virtually non-existent, and I'm looking at a Pittsburgh Steelers team that looks at a Big Ben Roethlisberger who balled yet again in the second half and deserves credit for that. But the only time they seem to have an offense is when they've got 5 wideouts. You got Claypool, you got Juju Smith-Schuster, you got James Washington, you got Eric Ebron. I'm just looking at all of these guys. The only time they seem to have any kind, and Deontay Johnson, let me not forget him. The only time we have any kind of offense is when you've got 5 wideouts and absolutely no running game whatsoever. You just got to throw the football. I don't know how that's going to bode well for the Pittsburgh Steelers come playoff time, and that's where my reticence lies. 8-0 is nice. It's fine, good and dandy. And if you had crowds in the audience, in the stadium rather, that would be good, because that would be some kind of hostile environment for somebody to come to. But with that not being expected and you just having to rely on the game, I'm not satisfied with what I'm seeing from my team right now.
Well, real quick on the Steelers, because I disagree. I was more impressed by the Cowboys. Teams change over the course of a season. Like, you hear so often you want to get hot at the right time. I've seen teams make Super Bowl runs where you wouldn't have thought they'd have done it through the season, and they got stronger and stronger as the season went on. The Steelers are trending in the wrong direction because they went from looking strong like against the Browns, and they're trending worse and worse, struggle against the Giants. And you almost lose to the Cowboys. But they are winning, and I was impressed with the Cowboys. I got to be honest, Stephen A., you were the one calling for Mike McCarthy's job mid-season. And my basic attitude was, yeah, whatever. I don't know if it makes much of a difference. I get rid of him at the end of the season. But I got to tell you what I see when I'm seeing it. I thought he had them ready to play against the Eagles in a game they lost. And I thought he had them ready to play yesterday. You know, like it took, look, they're dealing with no offensive line. They're dealing with, by the way, a linebacking core who I once thought, oh my God, Leighton Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith, oh my God, what they're going to be. They've really underachieved, and they had some costly penalties yesterday. You know, and Minka Fitzpatrick making plays, that's what he does. He's a great player. You were not expecting the Cowboys to win, and yet they came pretty close to beating a good team, a really good team, a team that hasn't lost, the only one that hasn't lost. And I got to give Mike McCarthy credit for that. Now, I realize the NFC East is so bad that at 2-7, they're only a half game out of first. So maybe they have a little more to play for than like the rest of us realize. But I have to give the head coach credit. Just like with Brady, you give him credit and then blame when it doesn't go well. Joe Judge is getting credit from because of the Giants' readiness to play losing competitive games. I have seen the Cowboys get more and more competitive over the last couple weeks, and I got to give them credit for what their eighth-string quarterback almost did yesterday. Behind no offensive line in a bad situation, they almost did it.
Yeah, but Max, that's playing down to competition. Let's not fool yourself here. No, don't all of a sudden think that the Dallas Cowboys can take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. 5 out of 5, the Steelers is going to win that football game every single time. And to you, Stephen A., I know you don't like the Steelers and the situation that they keep putting themselves in. But think about it. Over the course of the season, in 8 games, they've only outscored their opponent by more than 6 points to win games. It was the Cleveland Browns. Every single game, they play ugly to win. That's just Pittsburgh Steeler way. I know that they're not running the ball as well. And to Max's point, as time goes on, you get better and better come playoff time. You want to make sure that you're running the ball and you're playing defense because the weather will change. You won't be able to throw the ball all over the lot. But I believe in Mike Tomlin. I think Mike Tomlin is one of the top 4 head coaches in the National Football League. But I also believe that they'll get it turned around. If you look at that schedule that they have coming up, it's all favorable for them. Yeah. The only team that I made, and it's still Baltimore, and they handed Baltimore their loss in a tough one. But if you look at that schedule right there, all those games are winnable. The Bengals, the Jags, the Ravens, Washington. The Bills could be tough. Bengals again, the Colts and the Browns. So they should have
any killers on there.
None at all. So yeah. Bills could be interesting and tricky. So they should have the 1 or the 2 seed at the end of the season in the AFC.
Well, the 1 or the 2 seed don't really mean anything at this particular moment in time because you won't be playing in front of a home crowd. That's the thing that we got to point to here. I mean, if there was no COVID-19, then having a game at Heinz Field obviously would mean a whole hell of a lot. But the reality is that because of the times that we're living in, that home field advantage isn't as paramount as it was in the past. That's number one. Number two, let's understand something here. Listen, we all love Mike Tomlin. We all know he's a great coach. The man doesn't have losing seasons. We get all of that. The flip side to it is that since 2008, they haven't had Super Bowl championship seasons either. They went to a Super Bowl in 2010, lost to Aaron Rodgers, haven't been back since. It's 10 years later. We get all of that. I'm looking at a Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm looking at habits in terms of how you go down. When you play a certain way, okay, and every game is a nail biter. Every game comes down to the wire. You can't run roughshod over anybody. A matter of fact, you can't run against anybody.